Well, it's 8 in the morning. We're on our way to Lyme Regis today to interview a man called Fraser Christian, who's a foraging expert. He's going to take us along the coast of Lyme Regis looking for seaweed and limpets and things. And we're hoping it's going to, by interviewing him, he'll tell us something about the role that foraging plays in contentment. So we're going to ask him how it's changed over the last 100 years. Hopefully it should be a lot of fun.
Other things to take with you if you're going, I generally recommend people don't ever go on their own. We're going to be walking on some really slippy seaweed. I mean, it's like ice, walking on ice. You know, if you've got a place close to you, try and sort of learn it slowly, and you'll always discover new things. Every time I come here, I discover a new plant or a new seaweed or a new shellfish, because it's a completely changing environment, completely changing. One storm can come in and completely change the face of this beach. So it's always quite exciting. That's why I love working with the coast. You know, it's not like looking at a mountain, which very rarely changes, although it's, you know, it's magnificently beautiful. I look at the sea and I'm never bored, because I come here every time there's going to be a new reef exposed. It could be covered in, it could have been a sandbank before, and then I come in, it's a cave where you'll find lobsters. You know, it's an amazing place. As a single person living on my own, it's very difficult. We're not supposed to live on our own. Whereas before you'd have someone collecting the nuts, they'd be there, this would be there, so it would be a lot easier to live off the wild food. Even if there were shops, you had a community, because, I mean, you can't do everything yourself. You know, you can't expect to go out to work, to come home, skin a deer, and have a chance to cook it, and it to be cooked before 1 o'clock in the morning. Whereas if we lived in a community, and this is what we really need to get back into, tribalism and community, we had the apprenticeship scheme, everything was demonstrated first-hand and passed down. Whereas now we go to work, we pay for a cleaner, we pay for someone else to grow our food, we pay for someone to give us our water. We're no better off, are we? We're actually worse off, because what we're getting wouldn't be as good, half as good as if we collected our own water. You know, the wood that you buy at a garage is the unseasoned pine, you know. Everything is a poor substitute for what we would do ourselves, you know.
What would you recommend then for people that live in big cities like Bristol or London or Manchester, in the sense that you're in a place now in Lyme Regis where you say it's easier for you to do it here than in other
Foraging,
places?
yeah, well, I still encourage people to grow their own food. You know, like I lived in a tiny little house in Easton. Didn't really have a garden, so like I used to put window boxes out on the windows. We have like sloping roofs. I grow all my cucumbers and tomatoes down the sloping roofs. I used to live in an urban situation. We used to go and take all the food out of the bins continuously. There's some people used to put bleach on it, pour it over it so you couldn't have it. But what would happen if everybody was on free food? It devalues their product, doesn't it? You know, you're not going to go and buy a product in date if you can buy one out of date. I try and gain all my opinions from common sense, and it's common sense that we shouldn't be throwing food in the bin when there's people starving in this country. You know, there's people living below the poverty level in this country. You know, we shouldn't be throwing food away. Pick a little bit of this one up. Now try this. Try that. This is the one. This is traditionally used in Ireland, dried, and they put it into bread. I could sit here and eat this all day long. And this one with a tiny bit of vinegar. It's always worth stopping the cafes and taking those little vinegar sachets before you go foraging. So last night I was using this. I just made a simple risotto. Finely diced carrot and onion, loads of olive oil, black pepper, a little pinch of chilli. Sweat the vegetables down, in with the risotto rice, white wine, massive handful of this. And all I do is when you pick it, and talking about picking stuff sustainably, can you see there how I've picked that off? It's a bit naughty really. Can you see that's the little hold fast of where it was grown? What we want to do, as long as we take no more than 2/3 of the top part of the plant, so if we were to snap that off carefully there, that then is still going to grow again, yeah? So if we want to keep talking about going back sustainably time and time and time again, the day that I'll stop doing this as a job is a day that I go down to the beach and I see loads of families surviving on it for food, and I think, well, there's no need for me to do this anymore. You know, but up until that point, I think we've all got a responsibility to learn about this stuff. I'm a great believer it's in teams. You know, I don't believe any man's an island. And, you know, you couldn't survive on your own. We used to survive as tribes, and we all had different skills, and that's what's been broken down. First of all, they broke down tribalism, and then they break down families. You know, we had the Great Migration of the last recession, sort of when I left school, and there was a lot of people migrating from up north down to the southern regions for work, and obviously their families being smashed apart, all for work. You know, and that's I think it's a sickness inside of society, really. Because if they smash apart families and they smash apart tribalism, then we've got no unity, you know, and we will only depend on what we read or what's shown to us in the television, or what's, you know, or what we're told by our next door neighbour. And even if they think they're buying fresh vegetables, the vegetables they're buying, say mass produced, they're devoid of virtually all nutrients, as far as in the classical sense of what we think, a carrot's good for us because of this, an apple a day keeps the doctor away. But it probably did when they were wild or organically grown apples. I'd be surprised if an apple a day didn't actually put you towards seeing a doctor for all the pesticides, residual pesticides, waxes that are contained on it. You know, it's the world's just gone crazy. Places like London are 48 hours away from starvation, the food chain. You know, so I think to just know how to do this is not only a really nice thing to do. I mean, I've got some ex people who've been on courses before, and I was speaking to a girl the other day. She says it's great now, they turn up to the beach and they go for beach parties and stuff, with people who maybe not into wildlife, but they're going off and they're getting people like really impressed, like, wow, how do you know? It's all here, it's all simple stuff.
So do you reckon then that now that this recession's coming, it's going to lead to more people taking an interest in where their food comes from?
I think so, yeah, I definitely think so, because well, not your average working class person, because they haven't got the time, they can't afford an opinion. I'd love to be able to afford to have an opinion. You know, the mortgage system was invented to stop us striking. You know, you can't go on strike if you're in a mortgage. How can poor people suddenly go foraging if they've got to do 2 split shifts and night shift, and the kids are at the creche, and, you know, my mum used to work 3 jobs. And like the other thing you say, it boils down to greed and money. There's no money in it. It's free. We talk about free food. You know, foraging free food. It's never going to be you know, it's never going to coincide with our so-called democracy, and you know, it's never going to work. So, looking for crabs, and we've got loads of different crabs. We've got brown crabs, spider crabs, shore crabs, all edible again. Okay, all the crabs are edible, and you just want to be careful. Don't break your back. And you want to start looking underneath rocks. Okay. Now this rock has only just landed there because there's seaweed under it. Remember what I said about that green seaweed needs light? So that has definitely only just landed there. So what we need to look for, when we're looking for a rock for crabs, we want to look for one that's got seaweed on top of it, but not that you can't get underneath. Okay, we're going to have to move slightly. We want to look for, it takes a bit of a trained eye, and after a while you get your eye in, and you can spot a rock that's got a big gap underneath it and it's been there for a long time. So supermarkets are the only places that are open after 5:30. If you think 75% of the population are working class, and when do they ever get to go to the farmer's market on a Wednesday? Don't go and buy Prince Charles's blackberry sauce. Go out with his empty jam jar that you've got from the recycling station and fill it yourself. You know, this is what we need to do, because anything that's been processed is not going to be as fresh or, you know, or as wholesome as if you go and get it yourself. Don't look at this as something, oh, it's something that's there. Try and start using it and bringing it in, and you'll start to learn. I mean, we're trying to show you a plant in a minute called plantain. You would definitely see that growing in your lawn. It's one of the best medicinal plants I know, you know. And this is what we've got to get away from. Looking at, like I say, looking at our environment, having it all clean and tidy, and embracing the weeds, embracing the wild. I've done a course behind Temple Meads in Bristol. I found 12 edible and medicinal plants growing there. And I use that as an example for the people who try and poo-poo it and say, you can't find stuff, it's all right for you because you live in the countryside. There's stuff everywhere. More than just eating stuff, it's touching it, it's interacting, it's creating a relationship with your body between what you're interacting with. It's no good for you just opening a packet. I don't care if that packet food's the best organic food, and even if Prince Charles did grow it, you're not engaging with the process. If you didn't cook it and you can't smell it as it's cooking, it's not going to be as beneficial for you as a plant that you've picked or you've dug or you've cooked, you've peeled, you've washed. And that's the important thing. It's a lot more holistic. It's not that simple as just saying, I can give you the best food. You need to understand the food and engage with the food for it to be beneficial to you.
Do you ever go to shop into a supermarket?
Yeah, still go there for porridge oats, mostly because I feed my dogs porridge. So I still go down to the supermarket and buy porridge oats.
It's quite a nice statement on what you think of supermarkets.
Yeah. So this one, remember I was talking about a plant that you find growing in your... Oh, I can't sit down like that, my back's terrible today. I was cooking last night to leave that bloody stove. I was saying that you find growing out of your lawn. Everyone's seen this one? Yeah? Everybody recognise this? Yeah, this is one of the plantain families. There's 4 or 5 different plantains. This is what they often called rat's tail as well, because it grows a long stem with a seed head, and kids used to like zip them off. Amazing plant. Again, not so good to taste. It's very bitter, this one. It's going to be like a rocket, you know, very bitter like a rocket. And again, first new shoots coming up into spring, we'd possibly eat. There's other types of, there's another one, I don't know if we'll find it here, called buckthorn plantain, which is really great to eat. But what the plantains have all got, they're all an styptic, what they call an styptic. They all stem the flow of blood. This one particularly. I'll tell you some uses what I've used them for. Ulcers in the mouth, yeah? My dog's face swelled up 3 times the size, obviously got like an ulcer there up inside or side of his tuft or in his gum. Amazing at taking toxins out of the body, taken internally. So they will expel toxins in a really, really like efficient way. Really efficient way. I love my job, and the reason I love it is because when I'm working I eat wild food. Yeah. On a survival course, a 5-day survival course on the beach, all I'm living off is seaweed, limpet, shellfish, bass, mullet, crabs, lobster, you know. And then when I go home, yeah, I poison myself with a frozen pizza, you know. It's but those who can afford to have an opinion, I expect will buy into the big society. Surely, isn't he just looking at the moment that people are spending more than 25% of their weekly wage on fuel, which is supposed to be seen as being not right? I mean, where is he gauging all this from? On all those models already in place, I'd just be using all the obvious ones like, is my fuel bill more than 20% of my weekly bill? Is my food bill more than 50% of my weekly wage? I mean, I'm sure those are all the things that make people happy. How much leisure time do you have? I'd be thinking about maybe reducing the working week to 37 hours a week. You know, those sorts of things. I mean, just sitting down and relaxing really and eating, giving people more than half an hour, making it law that you have to have an hour if you're unemployed to eat your lunch. You know, those sort of really obvious things, like allowing people time to sleep, eat, you know, rest. Isn't that like what's going to make people happy? I don't know, common sense. You know, unfortunately most people do not give a shit about other people. I don't know any nice way of saying that, sorry, but they don't, you know, and that's because we've all been told we're different. You're all different to me, he's a different colour, he's a different culture. You off?
Thank you very much indeed.
Nice
Appreciate that. We'll see you. We'll see you again.
Yeah, give us
Maybe
a shout.
we'll go in the forest.
Yeah, a little bit. Well, you got cold hands. Warm up. Yeah, like me.